למען החי ורעי, למען החי ורעי, אדם בנה אתה בנה, שלום לך.
Hello. Today we're discussing Parsha Vayeilech. The year is 2488, which is 3291 years ago. This is as per Jewish calendar, on the 7th of Adar. If you think about it, what is 3291 years ago? If we calculate that the life expectancy of one generation is 40 years, because we normally have approximately 3 generations living at the same time, 3291 divided by 40 years, it's only 80 generations. So if you really think about it, it's not, in historical terms, it's not that long ago. So on this final day of his life, Moshe gathered all Israelites, men, women, and children, and he is re-entering them into the covenant with God. And we discussed that, we covered that in the previous Parsha Nitzavim. However, the issue of us Jewish people following the Torah or not following the Torah and the covenant with Hashem continues in this Parsha as well. Moshe summoned Joshua and introduced him to the people of Israel as the next generation leader who will take over from him, from Moshe. And he told Joshua that the elders of generation will be with you, for everything should be done according to their opinion and counsel. I quoted Moshe's words. And in contrast, however, Hashem, God, blessed be He, He said to Joshua, and I quote again, "For you shall bring the children of Israel to the land which I sworn to them." This is God's statement of leadership role to Joshua. And He means by that, you shall bring them, even if it is against their will. Everything depends only on you. If necessary, you must make a rod and beat them over their heads. There can be only one leader for one generation, not 2 leaders for a generation. What Hashem is basically saying, Joshua, that you are responsible, you are the leader, and you must lead strongly. All of this is stated in Talmud Sanhedrin 8a. Moshe then wrote and completed the entire Torah and gave it to Kohanim, priests, and the Israelite elders. Moshe proclaims God's commandment of Hakhel, assembly, where every 7 years during the holiday of Sukkot, which follows the sabbatical year, all men, women, and children will assemble in Jerusalem, when there is a temple, obviously in the temple, and the king publicly will read them the Torah, or at least sections of it. God commanded Moshe to enter the tabernacle together with Joshua after this, and he appeared to them both and informed them both of the times when Israelites will abandon God, will forget Him, and stray after alien idols. And at that time, God will hide His face, His countenance from the nation, and they will be subjected to many evils and troubles. Therefore, God says, write for yourself a song, this song, and He gives them the words of the song. And teach it to the children of Israel. Place it into their mouths, in order that this song will be for me a witness will serve me as a witness of who they are. This song is narrated in the next parsha, Ha'azinu, and we will naturally discuss that next time. Now, coming back to the question of leadership, which I mentioned a few seconds ago, and the fact that a leader must lead, and must lead by his personal understanding of what is required. Our modern leaders do not really do that. They rely on polls and statistics because they want to be re-elected. And so what the polls telling them is they act accordingly. It's interesting that in the end of Tractate Satah in Talmud, it says that in Messianic age, which is our time, there will be a generation bereft of high quality leadership, which means there will be no high quality leaders. And it will be like the leadership with mentality of a dog. What does that mean? Well, if you take a dog for a walk, and it's a disciplined dog, the dog runs to the corner, and then it sits and waits for the owner to come over, so that the dog will know which way the owner will go, and it will follow, and then it will run again in front to the next corner, and so on. Well, our modern leadership acts exactly the same way. It's running in front of the whole crowd of all the population, and then it gets worried about re-election, so it starts looking at the statistics of the polls. It sits like this dog on the corner, and whatever the statistics telling them, this is what they do. So basically, they act as the polls are telling them to act. So the leaders are not really leading, they just follow the crowd of what the statistics say. And we recently in Australia experienced this very strong indication of that level of deterioration of society, which is leaderless. Look at the shameful stupidity of the political demise of our ex-prime minister here in Australia. He was backstabbed by his own people. Why? Because the statistics were saying that he is not doing well in the polls. It's simple. Is that the kind of leadership we really want? I'm not saying the opposition is much better. We had 3 prime ministers in the last few years. No one has set out the terms of survival of civilization more strongly than Moshe in this book, in the Varim. Nations begin to die from within. Why? Because the wealth, affluence, worshipping money leads to overconfidence, which leads to forgetfulness, which leads to decadence, which leads to lack of social solidarity, which leads in the end to demoralization of the society. This is a prelude to defeat, particularly when the society is leaderless, when the leaders care only about being re-elected. They do not care about governing their countries, their people. Israel's very existence, said Moshe, would depend on memory, mission, and morality, remembering where we came from, what we called on to do, and how we called on to do it. We are the nation of the priests, hence the great 612th command of Hakhel, National Assembly. Hakhel was a reenactment of the covenant ceremony of Mount Sinai. Rambam says so. It was intended to remind the people of their history, the laws, what they were called to keep, and the principles they must live by. It was a renewal of their inherited and chosen destiny, a reminder of their duties. These duties Israel owed to their ancestors, to their descendants, not even born yet, and most of all to Hashem himself. Moshe must surely rank as the greatest political leader of all times. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, as a matter of fact, said in one of his last notes found in his desk after his death, that the concept of Hakhel is one of the greatest concepts Moshe has proclaimed to Jewish people. What Moses understood so clearly is that a nation that loses its sense of purpose, clear direction, shown by strong leadership, cannot survive. Purpose does not come from nowhere. It is shaped by historians and prophets in the past, taught in the synagogue, schools, and homes today, rehearsed in prayer, symbolically enacted in rituals, and recalled periodically in events like Hakhel, a great assembly of people. The nation's purpose must be based on a sense of religious identity. Like the latest law, as a matter of fact, enacted in Israel, to be always a Jewish state is a great demonstration of what it should be. And I must admit, I must make one little remark. There are two exclusions regarding the leadership in this world today. Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, and President Trump in the United States. They are leaders. They are not looking at the polls and the crowd's opinion about them. They lead their respective countries. Yeah, there are some others you will say, what about Putin and Kim Jong-un and the others? They are monsters. They are not leaders. They don't care about their own people. And that's the difference. Our religious leaders today, as far as Jews are concerned, are our rabbis. It may sound strange, but I truly believe that having a strong universal education system based on one agreed doctrine of Judaism, high moral and ethical values, as well as finding an equivalent of Hakhel, rededication of overall identity of Jewish people, even in Galut, in diaspora, is our most pressing task if Judaism and the whole free world is to survive. There is nothing more important, I think. In order to understand what I just said, all we will need to think about is one little dilemma. What is more important? Our comfort zone and comfortable life, or freedom and future of our children and grandchildren? Just think about that. Shabbat Shalom, it's starting soon. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next Parsha Chazinu. Goodbye.
למען בית השם אלוקינו אבק שטוב לה למען השם אלוקינו אבק שטוב לה למען בית השם אלוקינו אבק שטוב לה למען בית השם אלוקינו אבק שטוב